Once again, hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar Design Thinking Essentials. My name is Mario Vukelic, and I work at Stepri Science and Technology Park of the University of Rijeka in Croatia. And this webinar is actually a part of the forthcoming series of webinars that we deliver through Entrepreneurship Academy as part of the MobiNexus project. And MobiNexus is a project funded by Horizon Europe and implemented by 6 partners from 5 European countries. The goal of the project is to support the development of innovation in mobility by trying to connect entrepreneurial community and the academic community. Our activities pretty much revolve around the online collaboration platform we established, but we are also focused on increasing entrepreneurial competences and skills among different actors in the innovation ecosystems. And in line with that, we are delivering a series of online lectures, and the topic of today's one is design thinking, as you all saw. One very interesting thing about today's webinar, so among the participants, there are people with so many different backgrounds and professions. Today we have students, academics, entrepreneurial community, people working in public sector, consultants, trainers, so people from NGOs, also from different associations, and so on. And my assumption is that you are all here in order to learn something, and you learn something in order to build your competences, and you build your competences and skills in order to become better in what you actually do, to become better in your work. And if I have to put all of you under some kind of same umbrella, the thing that you do is actually you create solutions. All of you, no matter if you're an entrepreneur, public servant, student involved in some kind of associations, researcher, trainer, you are all delivering some kind of solutions, some kind of services, some kind of products. And for who? For people, for humans, not for another technology, an organization. You deliver these solutions for people that have emotions, that have motivations, that have awkward behavior, whatever. But you are all someone that creates and designs actually different kind of solutions. And this principle is maybe the easiest way to illustrate it is through the story of entrepreneurship, where there is always a group of people that has some kind of problem, some kind of need, some kind of job to be done, and those are basically your users or customers. On the other side, there is someone who tries at least to take care of that, who that's mostly an entrepreneur, and someone that creates a solution and delivers that solution to the user or the customer, and in return charges some kind of fee. And this is the basic entrepreneurial principle, the basic entrepreneurial mindset, and it's relevant not just for entrepreneurs, but we are also trying to encourage this entrepreneurial mindset among other groups, other professions, as I said, among researchers, among public servants, students, because the principle of you creating solutions for your target groups, it's pretty much the same, but maybe you don't charge a fee for your solution. Maybe if it's in public sector, then you get supported by the public money and so on. But this is in the core the same principle. And before creating any kind of solution, you need to be aware of one thing, and that is that your target users, they all have a certain job to be done. And this is really important principle to be aware of. This job to be done is a specific task that a concrete group of people has to do. And because of it, it hires a solution a certain product or a service, or a combination of a product and a service. We all go through life with different needs, with different tasks every day, and depending on the circumstances we are living and our capabilities, we buy or hire different solutions, different products and services. And this is a really important perspective because people often fall in love with their first idea for a solution without even thinking about what the problem are they trying to solve for their users. And this reverse perspective from the problem, from the job to be done of your target users, really opens up a lot of space to innovate. Then you can see that different kinds of solutions for the same problem exist. I will illustrate this with a couple of really simple examples. Pretty much all of us have this job to be done often, and that's going to work. When you're going from your home to work, you can walk, you can use public transport as a bus, you can take a cab, you can ride a bike or electric scooter. So different solutions are basically, depending on the circumstances, different solutions are being hired. Different solutions can take care of the same job to be done, or the same problem. Let's take a look at long distance communication. People think that the need for wireless phones or cell phones appeared in the 70s or 80s of the last century. But actually the need for a solution for long distance communications exists since the start of the civilization, basically. And depending on the technologies that we had at our disposal, we tried to solve this problem. From smoke signals, then when the different technologies came, we used the phone, then cell phone, then now we are today on communicating via internet, via Zoom. So one day probably we will have a chip in our head and just dial someone when we want to communicate long distance. So as soon as technology progressed, as soon as new solutions were available, better design solutions, we just adapted them to actually solve the same problem that we had. Let's take a look at example of a job to be done, or a need to have nicely cut grass around your house, a nicely cut lawn. So for this task, you can use like a motor lawnmower mower, or the one that doesn't use petrol, for example, or you can buy a goat, for example, or you can buy genetically modified grass that is growing just for a certain height or certain amount of centimeters. So totally different technologies, totally different solutions in a particular circumstances can be attractive to users and can solve the same problem. So these perspectives from a job to be done allows you to have a lot of ideas for a potential solution, potential innovative solution. And when we talk about innovative solutions, they have to be desired. They have to be based on concrete needs of your target users. They have to be doable, which means that you have to have competencies to actually create and deliver this kind of solutions. And they have to be viable. They have to be based and delivered in a certain business model, a sustainable business model. So you can do this creating and delivering solution continuously. And only when these three things are matched, then you have actually an innovative, then you can say that you have an innovative solution. If one of these three things is missing, then you still have a non-sustainable idea, basically. You need to satisfy these three things. Okay, so creating innovative solutions, and how did this term design got into something, into entrepreneurial world, into a world of creating different solutions, different products and services? When we say a word design, we most often first think of aesthetics of some products, like visual characteristics of certain products. But design is more than just that. We rarely think of functionalities, but design is basically shaping something to fully serve its purpose. Design is shaping something so it can solve the problem in a best possible way. And no matter if this thing is physical or non-physical, that's why this terminology transferred into the world of entrepreneurship, into the world of creating really complex solutions, because with years evolved into a term that we call design thinking as a mindset for creating solutions in the best possible way. So today we are designing from simple physical products to services and to actually really complex solutions like different systems, like public services, like humanitarian aid, utility services, and so on. We are all designing these solutions in order for them to solve the problem in a best possible way, and so the users of these solutions can have the best possible experience. So this approach evolved into design thinking as a structured approach to innovation. So this is a methodology of creating innovative solutions, new solutions. One thing that's very characteristic for it, it's that it's very visual. It encourages visual communication, encourages creativity. So all the methods and tools used in this methodology are basically very visual and very creativity boosting. They encourage thinking outside of the box. But the most important thing is that humans, the target user, must be at the center of the entire process from the beginning, from the initial idea and exploration of the problem to the final, let's say, solution. So people must always be in your focus. You mustn't lose focus from your target users. The guy that's maybe most responsible for popularization of this approach is Mr. David Kelly. He teaches design thinking for more than 40 years at Stanford Design School. He published a couple of books that you can check out, Google him. He also has his own company, an innovation hub called IDEO. So he's definitely one of the persons that contributed the most to popularization of this approach. So you can later check him out. And when we come to design thinking has 5 distinctive phases, let's say. The first one is exploring your target user. So trying to create empathy with your users, exploring him in a most detailed possible way to figure out what are the circumstances in which a particular problem for him arises. So after you develop empathy with your users, after you find out his needs and the circumstances in which needs appear, then you go to the second phase and precisely define the problem that actually you need to solve, the job that your customer is trying to do, the job to be done. You precisely define the problem, then again you go to this divergent thinking and try to figure out as many possible ideas for solving this particular problem. You go into the ideation phase, then you go into the prototyping phase, where you actually make this idea alive in order to check its functionalities, to check if it's appropriate for your users, and then in the end you test the solution with your user. You don't test it just with yourself. You need to have users constantly in focus and get them involved as much as possible in creating a particular solution, a particular product or a service. So basically you discover your target user, your customer, you define what it is that he needs to do, what is his problem, you develop a solution, and you deliver a solution. So this is basically common sense. and nothing spectacular. But in reality, in practice, some problems appear. And the main one is that we too soon fall in love with initial idea for a solution without even checking what is that our user needs. So in reality, these first phases, especially empathizing with your users and defining precisely the problem that needs to be taken care of, those are mostly skipped. Or prototyping as a way to check your idea without investing too much in it, not developing the final product instantly, it's also always skipped. So people neglect some of these steps, and then the solutions that are being created doesn't really fit the needs of the users, and they fail despite significant investments sometime. One important thing is that this is not a linear process. You don't go just like that, step by step. This is not a checklist. The entire process of developing a solution looks much more chaotic, and you shift from one phase to another because throughout the entire process you learn new things. You learn what fails, what works, and you sometimes go back to the previous phase and so on. So it's a ping pong between these phases, but with time you get to the final phases, and you eventually test the final solution that really fits the needs of your users, and you finish with the process. So let's go a bit more in detail with each of these phases. The first one is empathizing, so stepping into another man's shoes. In this phase, like I said, we are trying to understand the user's experience with a particular problem as much as possible. So the goal of this phase is to discover people's real needs, and in this phase you need to simply ask a lot of different questions. You need to precisely define who is actually your users. Not all people are users of all solutions. So you need to have a really concrete group of people with similar interest in your potential solutions, or you need to have a group with the same type of problem actually. You need to figure out what are they doing, why are they doing particular things, in what circumstances, what are the barriers when they try to solve a particular problem, when they start to change something in their life. So you really need to explore your users. And how do you do that? You gather a lot of information about them. And there are different ways today, of course, to get data on your users, on your potential customers. Data today is very, very valuable currency, and you can start with plain desk research, for example, about a particular group of people. You can go into statistics, databases, and so on. But the interview, the real interaction with people, it's still the approach I very much encourage in order to get that real connection to your target users, to get to those emotions and motivations behind a particular will to change something or behind particular need. So direct interaction with users is still very, very valuable, and it brings a lot of context into particular informations. You can also observe your target users. If possible, you can spend time maybe among them, so-called shadowing, when you spend time in the same places where users are spending time in order to see how they behave, what are the problems, what are the barriers. And you can study some photo or video material if that's allowed, if that's in accordance with GDPR and so on. So there are different ways to gather data to get to know your target users. And then you will get a ton of data. And then what? Then you need to actually, out of that data, make some conclusions. You need to structurally synthesize, let's say, all the informations you got. You need to reach valuable conclusions out of that data in order to create some solid assumptions about potential solution or about precise problem that needs to be solved. These assumptions need to be based in concrete data, and these are some of the tools that help you structure the information you got about your users. One important tool is the persona or the user profile. It's a tool for creating a fictional person that represents a particular group of people with maybe the same or similar job to be done, let's say, or similar problem. And the other one is the empathy map, which captures a bit more of experience of that users in a particular circumstances. It captures the experience of users when dealing with some kind of problem. So we will go a little bit in detail with those tools just in a couple of minutes. So in order to maybe show you all these steps in a bit more concrete way, we will use a particular case. We will use an example. Let's say we are a group of experts that want to tackle this problem in our society. We want to build interest for new technologies and innovation in mobility among school students. We see that new generations are not really interested in particular new technologies used in mobility field. So we want to actually improve those STEM lectures in schools and build interest among students for these innovations in mobility. So who are our target users? Those are pretty much teachers and students. So those are our specific, not anyone, not school as a building. We need to get really concrete, and we need to focus on our real users. Those are students and teachers. And then we need to interact with them. After interaction, after gathering some data, after conducting interviews, then we can build those tools I mentioned. We can fill them in order to structure the findings, the conclusions, and later make some concrete assumptions. This is the tool I mentioned, the persona, creating a profile of a particular user. So it's a fictional character that represents the group we are focused on. And you don't put just the demography of these people, like gender, age, income, and so on. You really you need to dig a little bit deeper into their private life, let's say, into their behavior, habits, their emotions, what makes them feel good, what makes them feel bad. So you're trying to see what are the activities they have and interactions that are pleasant, that result with positive emotions, but also where are the barriers, where are some difficulties in a particular circumstances. What bad experiences do they have in a particular circumstances? And also, what is the character of these people? What are their abilities, competences, attitudes, values they have in life, and so on? So really try to build, get as close as much to a real person. The empathy phase is about trying to feel what other person is feeling, trying to see what the other person is seeing. That's never fully possible, but you can get really close to understanding how people behave. And this is, let's say, an example of user profile in our case. Based on the interaction with teachers in school, we want to improve their lectures. We created a profile of the teacher. This is a male, 57 years old. He's a family guy. He loves working with children. He likes new technologies. So he's a technology enthusiast, loves talented students, but also there are some things he complained about disengaged colleagues that doesn't want to change maybe the curriculum, that he sees that the curriculum is outdated. He's struggling with this old way of giving lectures. And he sees that it's really hard to change the entire education system. It's very slow and inefficient and so on. So he has some frustrations. And then you have some characteristics of his behavior and habits. So he's likely introvert person. He's a tech enthusiast. He uses a lot of IT gadgets, but he dislikes social media, for example. And all this information, although they doesn't seem relevant at the beginning, they can really tell you that how to reach your target users, where to target them. When you know that this is a group of people that doesn't like social media, then you won't put ads for your solution on the social media. You will find different, more efficient channels to reach them. So it's a good way to understand how your target user behaves. Okay, so we have our profile. Now let's go deeper into the experience of these users in the context of lectures about new technologies that could be used in creating innovation in mobility. So let's say we talked to our students, and now we are going to map actually their experience during the lectures. And this is a really simple a tool, empathy map, that can capture a lot. It's based on the senses, all the senses people have when dealing with a particular problem in different circumstances, and you just map, okay, when you are experiencing this, what do you see, what do these target users say and do, what do they hear, and the most important thing, what do they think and feel. That's actually the strongest motivation for using or buying a solution in a later stage. So when it comes to students, they say they see old books being used at lectures, they see ancient lab instruments for showcasing some technologies, they see more interesting things on the internet, they see just some boring bullet points on the board. They hear laughter from other classrooms, so they think that other lectures are more fun. They hear someone mentioning some cool stuff they saw about in some other school, how new technologies are represented there. What do they say and do? They run away from the lectures. They say that the teacher doesn't seem very trendy with knowledge about new technologies. They say that those lectures about STEM subjects are pretty much boring. And they feel frustrations. They feel that the lectures are outdated. They want to be involved, actually. They want the lectures to be slightly maybe more interactive, and they want to try it themselves. They want to see how this technology actually works, how they can be applied without just listening about theory. Now, this is now a bit more in detail mapped experience of our target users by using this tool. Let's check out the other target group you're having, the teachers. So they also say that use the same old equipment. They are aware of that. The teacher tries to be creative, but it's not enough. He doesn't have time to change his subjects. He has no time to revise the entire program he needs to deliver during the lectures. He sees that the students are making sketches on the books. It seems that they are bored. He sees that students are not interested. They talk to each other. He hears them say they are bored. He thinks that he didn't reach actually the full potential of these lectures that are really relevant, actually. And he thinks that he should somehow unlock the creativity of students. He thinks that the system is not adapted to new generations of students, and that is really frustrating. And okay, so we captured the experience of our target users, and now out of this experience, we need to extract actually the key pains that are having in certain experience, the things that makes them unhappy, and also during the interaction with them, we probably get some insight about the potential gains, about something they mentioned that would make them happy when dealing with some kind of problems. So let's say that we extracted the pains for the students. The lectures are boring for them. They don't see how this knowledge actually could be applied. So it's not really appealing for them to listen to these lectures. What would make them happy? They would love to learn about new technologies in a fun and interactive way. They are still very young. They need to find motivation in some kind of fun activities, let's say. As for the teachers, their key pains are they know they have to change their approach, but they don't have the time and money to change their lectures. And what would make them happy? Some kind of add-on that will stimulate students' interest and creativity, something that's easy to implement in their lectures. Okay, now we have some more insights into the experience of our users, and we are getting closer to precisely defining the problem that needs to be solved. And that's when we are moving to the second phase, to the define phase, where we try to figure out what's really the problem before, as I said before, falling in love with your first idea for a solution. And this sentence summarizes it really well. Make sure you solve the right problem before solving the problem right. At least you think you're solving the problem right. So the goal of this phase is to define an essential problem of the user. In this phase, you need to create an actionable problem statement. So the problem statement is something that needs to be really well structured, so it can be communicated also within the team. Especially today, solutions, especially those complex ones, are created in a multidisciplinary way with different members of the team, and you need everyone to be aligned and focused on the same problem, and you need to really precisely define the statement so it's clear to everyone involved into the creating of the solution. So you need to structure it really well. The problem statement, of course, needs to remain human-centered and specific. So you need to stay focused basically on the users you are creating. You're trying to create a solution for. So it's the problem focuses on the people experiencing it, and those people are, as we saw before in the example, they need to be really precisely defined. The problem statement, the job to be done as you wish, needs to be based in evidence and needs to be based in interaction with the users. It needs to be based in the data you gathered. It needs to be based finally in those pains and gains you discovered, in those things that are making your users unhappy, and in those wishes, their needs that they want that would make them happier. And also the problem statement should be actionable, but solution neutral. So it should, let's say, give a direction towards creating a solution, but the problem, when you're defining the problem, it should not impose just one type of solution or idea for a solution. So it needs to be solution neutral. You need to open up the space for different potential innovative solutions while keeping the problem statement actionable. So recently, there are different frameworks for problem statements for defining the problem. But recently, I saw this one that is actually based in that job to be done approach that we talked about earlier. So this is an interesting problem statement that first describes the situation where the problem appears. It describes the motivation, the will, the reasons why those users want to change the situation. They want to change something problematic, and the outcome, the wish that they have, the final outcome of that a solution should provide for them. And this is a really simple but really concrete and focused type of describing a problem you want to solve. So until now, in our case, we met those target users, students and teachers. We found out what are the crucial pains and gains, and then we defined, based on that, we defined a problem based in reality, basically. And if we follow that structure I recommended, this would be, in our case, it. When I combined one problem statement for both of these target groups. So when they are having lectures on STEM subjects and new technologies, they want to interact and have fun without much changes to the curriculum, because it's hard to change it. So they can stay motivated to learn and explore application of new technologies in mobility. So especially students. We want them to stay motivated and learn and explore about application of new technologies in mobility sector. Now, this is a bit more focused problem statement. The problem that needs to be solved is now much more clearer. And now you need to again go into a more creative phase, let's say into the phase of ideation. Now you need to think of all the potential solutions that can solve this problem, that can improve lectures, let's say in our example, in a fun and interactive way. So the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. You really need to create an entire pool of idea in order to find an appropriate one. So the goal of this phase is, of course, finding the best possible idea for a solution, but you really now need to start thinking outside the box and generate basically all the possible and impossible, let's say, things that could be a solution for a particular problem, because some things that seem impossible at first can in a way, especially today with application of some new technologies, be actually feasible in a way. And this is the first step of this phase: generating as much as possible idea, try to think outside the box, and especially when working in a team, there's no room for criticizing ideas at this step. So you really need to go as much as possible into into the creative, let's say, a mindset. And then after that, when you develop tons of idea, when you generate them, then you can go into the analysis, see what could work, what could not work, and then it's the time to criticize and filter out the best possible idea. There are different methods for generating ideas. There are individual methods like mental map that when you are sketching a flow of development, a particular idea. You can use some associations from, I don't know, let's say text about a particular subject that you want to deal with. You extract a couple of words as associations, and then you start writing and describing them in order to get inspired for solving a particular problem. Or free writing, where you force yourself into writing a lot of text and describe as much as possible particular problem in order to trying to solve it. But definitely, the more perspectives you have on the problem, the more potential for an innovative idea there will be. So group methods are definitely something that should be supported. People with different perspectives, with different capabilities, different experiences in one room generating ideas. That's much more fruitful to getting to an innovative idea at one point. So brainstorming, brainwriting, which is basically brainstorming muted, or reverse brainstorming, those are some of the methods that are encouraged in this phase and that teams developing particular solutions often use. Something that we often use in our workshops on design thinking, it's this method, the hot potato, because there is a theory when combining physical movement with mental activities, it actually releases a particular fields in your brain and makes you more creative. So we are trying to, whenever we can, use this method where people are, the team that is developing particular solutions actually throws a ball or actually a potato to each other, and the one who catches it needs to quickly come up to any kind of idea that comes to his mind. So in this way, you can, through motorics, you can generate a lot of different and potentially very innovative and creative ideas for a particular solutions. And what's the result of all these methods of idea generation? The result is ton of ideas. And then these ideas needs to be further presented, because often at first they are just briefly described or described just with one or two words. You need to present all the ideas to the other members of the team to clarify what you meant. And it's a good thing in case you develop really a high number of ideas, it's good to group them. So it's easier to spot maybe similar ideas or ideas that have synergy between them that can be combined. it's better to group them so you can have a better overview on everything that you generated. And then when you group your ideas, you can go into the analysis, into evaluation, maybe vote for a particular idea that should go through, or have experts evaluate the ideas. So this is now the time to choose the ones with the best potential. To illustrate this a little bit, let's go back again to our example of students and teachers. We want to improve their lectures on STEM subjects. So these are, let's say, some ideas that arise through ideation phase. Maybe schools can introduce STEM labs, some interactive classrooms, maybe some new equipment can be bought, some R&D instruments, some multimedia equipment. Maybe teachers should go for some trainings, some seminars. Maybe the curriculum should be changed, adapted to this new generation of students. Maybe some additional subjects should be introduced into the curriculum. Maybe events would solve this problem of bringing more interest to students about these new technologies. Maybe some experts can be as guest lecturers on these lectures in school. Maybe you can collaborate with other organizations. Maybe you can take students to visit some companies, innovative companies, to visit innovation hubs. So these are all ideas that could bring interest for new technologies and innovation in mobility to students, or maybe a certain build-it-yourself kit that could be used on lectures would be an interesting idea. And yeah, in our case, let's say, this is the idea that turned out to be the most potential one. After you focus on one particular idea, then you need to elaborate it a little bit more. So because this is usually just a brief description at the beginning, just a post-it maybe. Now, if the team decides, okay, this idea seems like a good thing to pursue, then you need to elaborate it a bit more so everyone is on the same page. With the idea, you give it a title, you describe main features and the resources and competencies you need to develop it. And then, but you need to, like I said before, always stay focused on your target users, on their pains that you get discovered and the gains they want to achieve. So you need to see if this idea really killing the pains we identified earlier, and does it bring gains? Would it make our target users happy? So you need to stay focused on that. And in our simple example, let's say that we as experts focused on maybe developing a solution in a form of a set, a kit for building your own robot vehicle that allows students to explore new technologies. And we briefly described the pains it would maybe kill. It would kill boredom. It would demonstrate application of technologies. It's not so expensive and time consuming, like changing the curriculum, for example. And it could bring some gains, make the lectures more fun and stimulate students' engagement and creativity. So in our example, let's say this is the idea that turned out to be the best. And when you have focus on a particular idea, you don't just jump into creating the final product or the final service, because it's still not really tested with the users, and it's still not the functionalities of this idea are still not tested. So it's better to first try it cheap, to build a prototype and to build something that is grounded in reality and not just assumptions and opinions. So the prototype serves to explore this idea further, to develop it without wasting too much resources. So the activities here is making the idea basically alive, to build it, especially if it's a physical thing. You can build it in order to explore it further, to explore it functionalities. You need to evaluate if this is the right path you're taking. Will this actually solve the challenges of our users? And you can also use the prototype to present the idea either to other partners and collaborators on creating the solution, or even to potential investors or stakeholders and so on. So it's always good to make some kind of representation of this idea to demonstrate its functionalities in some way. And the result of this activity is some kind of early prototype or a minimal viable product, something that gives better understanding and more insight into the potential of this idea, into its functionalities, into how it could solve the problem of our users and help them solve that job to be done. Prototypes can be really simple sketches and drawings at first. It can be storyboards that map experience of our users, especially when it comes to services which are most often represented as a story, not as something physical. But you can also have, of course, physical prototypes. You're trying to go as cheap as possible at the beginning in order to validate certain assumptions, in order to test some functionalities of your potential solutions. As I said, services, one of the best way to prototype them is role playing. When there is a lot of people interaction, it's good to have some kind of role playing at the beginning in order to really experience the solution you're trying to develop, to see how it will function, how it would function in a particular circumstances, in a particular space. You can really, with role playing, you can demonstrate different kinds of services and experiences with different products. So this is pretty much it for the prototyping phase. And then when you develop a minimal viable product, when you're getting closer to something that can be really evaluated by the users, then you go into the testing phase. Before you finalize your solution, you need to test it with your target users. So the point of this activity is to get feedback in order to finalize your solution, in order to improve it. There is no one ever that was right on the first time when developing a solution. You need to revise it a couple of times. So the point is to see with the user what is working in your solution, what is not working, and then depending how successful you are, probably go back into one of the previous phases of design thinking and improve your solution. When you're analyzing your feedback from the users, be focused on data on what was successful, okay, what was working, so you can put a check on that. What can be improved, what clearly didn't working and should be improved, and what was unclear or confusing. So it needs to further refinement and maybe further testing with the users. And along the way, there will probably come some new ideas. Maybe the users will inspire you to adapt your solution in a different way. So this is basically based on this feedback, you go back to improving your solution until you come to the final version with which the user will be really satisfied. And that's basically it. That's the entire design thinking process. The process of discovering your users, defining the problem you need to solve, developing the solutions, and delivering it. So this was the illustration of those 5 phases. And in our case, let's say the final solution can be something like this, really kit for building a robot vehicle that could involve students into practically learning about new technologies that could be used in mobility. And these solutions really exist and are often used actually in lectures on STEM subjects. Before we're done, I want to take you a step further with design thinking being used not just for initial creating of new innovative solutions, but also improving the experience with existing solutions, improving the journey of your users and customers. So we are gonna go on a journey, let's say, to explore the user's journey, and that's user's journey is actually all the steps someone needs to take in order to solve that job to be done, in order to take care of a particular problem. Not just the use of the product, not just that moment, but also from informing about potential solutions to purchasing process, buying, maintenance, disposal in the end of the projects. Those are all that's a wider picture of the experience someone is having with a particular product or a service. And these customers or users journeys, they last for a really long time. For example, we became customers of our banks often at a really young age, when we start with those saving accounts for kids, let's say, and then the bank follows us through our life with different additional products and services depending on the phase of life we are in. But often the same banks that we start to use as kids just follow us through our retirement. So these journeys, and they are aware of the entire journey we are taking with them, and they are really focused on improving experience with their solutions as much as possible. So some journeys can take a really long time, can take years. Some experience with particular solutions, and some journeys are really short. At least they seem like that. Sometimes you just come to a kiosk to buy gums or a juice, and then you leave. And this user's journey or customer's journey, this experience seems very short. But it's also something that needs to be evaluated in detail, assessed in detail, see what is the context of users coming to my kiosks. Because when you get this a bit wider context of the user's journey, then you can see some opportunities to improve your offer. Maybe if you see that someone comes to your kiosk every time on their way to I don't know, from park or some kind of sports yard, then you can see that maybe this person is in need of a juice or something like that, and you can also involve this into your offer. Or maybe someone is on their way to pay their bills somewhere, so you can offer paying bills on your kiosk, and so on. The journey of your customers is really, and users, is really something you need to take seriously, because again, you are designing the experience of people with your solutions, with your products and services, not just the physical part, but the entire experience, from informing about solutions to disposal of the solutions. You can step in and cover all these steps of users' journey and improve their experience. So I will just introduce you to this one relatively simple tool, but pretty powerful. Actually, it's a tool that's been used to map users' experience with a particular solutions. So in this row, there's really a generic actually set of steps that people often take when they are using a particular solution. And this is very generic. Buying an ice cream or buying a bank loan can be fit into the same framework that's shown here. In both cases, you're getting informed about where you could get a particular solution. Then you go into the activities of purchasing that solution. Then it is delivered to you. Then you use it, you maybe have some add-ons on supplements, maybe some maintenance, and then in the end, when you solve your problem, you get disposed of it. And so buying a car or buying a drink can fit into the same framework of getting and using a solution. So this is a good framework to analyze any kind of service or product being used. And you analyze it in a way that after you map out what is your user actually doing in each of these steps, then you go beyond, you explore what is he actually thinking in each of these steps. And based on that, you discover what are the feelings in each of these steps. Maybe something works, maybe something doesn't work. Maybe there is a room to improve something. So you analyze the experience of your user throughout the entire journey of solving a particular problem. You analyze beyond even their emotions. You see in each step where are you interacting with your users, what are the touch points, and what are the resources you need to have in order to for these touch points to manifest. What are the activities you need to do, like some sort of backstage that manifests on the scene. And based on these insights for each particular step, you get to see what can maybe be improved. And I will illustrate how this tool for analyzing a user's journey could be used, again, on the case of our teacher that wants to improve his STEM lessons. So the first step, when he becomes aware of the problem, his students are not interested, then he's trying to find out what can he add to his lectures, what could be a potential solution for improving STEM lectures. So at the beginning, he's he's maybe asking a friend about some recommendations, and then he finds out on the internet about some robot vehicle kit that he could try in his lectures. Then he goes into the buying step. He's ordering this solution online. Then the solution is being delivered to him. What is he doing? He's just monitoring the delivery and pretty much waiting for the courier to bring him the product. Then when it finally arrives, the user is reading the instructions and using the robot vehicle. He's building it with his students during his lectures. And there are some add-on supplements to this product, some video training material on how to use this robot, and a mobile app that's being used to actually operate the robot vehicle. In the maintenance phase, the user is maybe changing spare parts and updates the software on his app that's being used to operate the robot vehicle. And in the end, when the robot vehicle finally breaks or whatever, and he couldn't use it anymore, he dismantles it and tries to dispose of it in the best possible way. So these are the activities of our user throughout the entire experience with this product. Now, in each step, what is he thinking? Okay, when he first saw the robot vehicle kit, he thinks, okay, this is something cool, could be interesting for the students. The purchase was relatively painless. Okay, I paid with a credit card. Now the delivery took a bit too long. He asks himself, where is it? And then it finally arrives. He thinks it is very cool. The kids like it, but it's not so easy to assemble this robot. It's not so easy to operate it. He would like some additional support. He needs to adapt lectures now when he uses it. So there are some obstacles here. With maintenance, he thinks that he would like automatic updates, not that he manually needs to check for updates of his app. And he's also replacing broken parts, and this takes probably too long. When something breaks in this robot, then from the manufacturer he needs to order it and wait for the spare parts and then change it. And at disposal, he thinks maybe there is some better way to dispose of this robot. Some parts still look good. Maybe it can be reusable. So based on this, his activities and the thinking of the user in each of these phases, you get a glimpse of what are the feelings behind it. Okay, maybe there are really at some steps, some frustrations behind it. So the feelings were not so great in each part of this experience. And you can also analyze the front-end touch point at each phase. For example, in phase of getting information, the touch point between you and the user is, let's say, a website. Then it's in the use phase and add-ons. The customer service could be a touch point between the user and the one providing the solution. So you define these places where you interact with the users, and you also need to define what are the resources you need to use and have, and activities you need to do in order for this touch point to work fine. And based on this entire now picture of complete picture of user experience, you can now identify the particular pain points in his journey, which are actually opportunities to improve his entire experience. And now again, let's continue. Let's say our provider of a solution noticed these pain points, they analyzed the experience of of the target users, and they decided they will improve this experience. So now they are the new experience of the user looks now like this. He's finding the robot vehicle kit, but he's not buying a product. He's now buying a license. They decided to sell a license where you get account and a hardware for a year. So hardware, a kit that can be used in a school in lectures for 1 year. It's now a plug and play actually solution that's adapted to the curriculum schools are having. There is no more like changing and ordering spare parts and changing them. There is not just video tutorials, but there is now a total support for the users because he's paying for a license, and this solution that's being paid for as a license need to work at any moment. So when the robot breaks, you just get a new one until the old one is repaired. So now the user gets a total support, and there is no more disposal of the robots into the bin. If you can renew the license and continue using this solution, or you can end the license, and then the physical part of this solution is taken back by the solution provider. So this is now a totally different experience for the users that improved, where a lot of these steps were improved and a lot of pain points were actually solved. And this resulted basically with a change of a business model of providing a solution. And this case is inspired by a real case of a company from Croatia that developed these robots to be used during lectures in schools, and they changed their business model from selling products to selling basically product-based services, which improved the experience of the user a lot. So design thinking as a way of approach to improving your offer can be really something really powerful and something that can really transform the way the solutions are being delivered. And now we are getting close to the end. So some key takeaways for the end. Design thinking is a mindset, more of a mindset than less than a process. As I mentioned before, it's not a linear process. It's a mindset that enables you to develop a solution that's really adapted to your target users. You need to, while doing this approach, while taking this approach, you need to be careful to avoid particular mistakes, like jumping to ideation before getting to know your users, before defining the problem you need to take care of. Don't prototype too late after a lot of costs appear because of solution development. And don't just test to confirm you're right, test to see what is actually wrong with the current solution and try to improve it. This approach, the design thinking approach, in the end will save you time and money while creating something people actually need. So after this, maybe we should stop just design thinking, and start design doing. And I hope that some of you will try to apply this approach, or at least adapt their mindset when creating different solutions, when providing your services, when creating your products. No matter if you are in the private sector or public sector, I think you can take advantage of this kind of approach. So the recording of this webinar will still be available on the website of our project, and you can find some other interesting resources there. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much. And thank you also on behalf of the MobiNexus partnership. Oh.